My name is Chelsea Morgan, and what happened on Easter last year still burns in my memory. My younger brother Justin smirked and said it loud enough for everyone to hear when my 7-year-old daughter Kaylee unwrapped her Easter basket, a cheap old doll with one arm missing tangled hair and faded paint. He leaned back and announced, "That's exactly the kind of gift for poor kids." Meanwhile, his 5 children were tearing through shiny boxes filled with brand new electronics, wireless headphones, designer clothes, and high-end toys that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. My mom, Patricia, actually chuckled and added, "It suits the ones who aren't good enough." The Easter brunch at my parents' house in the suburbs was supposed to be joyful outdoor table loaded with ham fruit salad, warm rolls, and spring flowers. Our family always agreed to fill Easter baskets not just for the kids, but also with small gifts for the adults to make the day feel special for everyone. Kaylee sat there quietly, head down, clutching the hem of my dress, trying so hard not to let her disappointment show. In that instant, I realized this wasn't an oversight. It was deliberate disrespect. My heart pounded. I stood up, walked straight to my car, grabbed the stack of carefully chosen personalized gifts I'd spent weeks preparing for everyone, slammed them down on the table, looked them all dead in the eye, and said calmly but firmly, "From now on, none of you will get a single thing from me again." The entire backyard went dead silent. Forks froze midair. Then Justin exploded, yelling at the top of his lungs. If you've ever watched your own child get treated like an afterthought while everyone else gets spoiled, especially by your own family, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned. What I did next changed everything. The spring breeze picked up slightly, rustling the napkins on the table, but no one moved to fix them. I could feel the weight of every pair of eyes on me, waiting for what came next. I didn't hesitate. I stood up slowly, walked over to the corner of the patio where I had placed the large canvas tote earlier that morning. Inside were all the gifts I had spent weeks choosing, each one wrapped with care, tagged with handwritten notes, selected specifically for the person who would receive it. For my nephews and nieces, I had picked out books they had mentioned wanting the latest in their favorite series, plus small accessories like bookmarks and reading lights because I knew how much they loved reading before bed. For Patricia, I had found a high-quality set of stainless steel cookware she had admired online months ago, pieces she said she could never justify buying herself. For Dennis, a complete toolkit with the exact brand of wrenches and screwdrivers he always complained his old set was missing. And for Justin, a premium leather wallet with his initials embossed, something practical, but thoughtful, that I thought might help him feel a little more put together. I lifted the tote and carried it back to the center of the table. Without a word, I began placing each wrapped package back into the bag one by one, deliberately and calmly. The crinkle of the paper was the only sound for several long seconds. Justin broke first. "What are you doing? You can't just take everything away like that." I didn't look up. "I'm taking them home. They don't belong here anymore." Patricia's voice rose sharp and incredulous. "Chelsea, this is ridiculous. You're acting like a child throwing a tantrum. Those gifts are for the family. They were," I said evenly, zipping the tote closed. "Until today." Dennis finally spoke, his tone low and measured. "You don't have to do this. We can talk about it later." I turned to him, then meeting his eyes for the first time since the brunch began. "We've talked plenty over the years. Talking hasn't changed anything." I slung the tote over my shoulder and took a single step toward the driveway. That's when Justin stood up so fast his chair scraped loudly against the patio stones. "You're seriously walking away with all of that?" "After everything we've done for you," I stopped and turned back. "Everything you've done for me." "Like what, Justin? Tell me one time you've helped me without expecting something in return. One time you've covered a bill, watched Kaylee when I was working late, or even just called to check on us when things were tough." He opened his mouth, then closed it again. The silence was answer enough. Patricia stepped forward, her hands clasped in front of her like she was trying to hold the moment together. "You're hurting the children with this. They were so excited to see what you brought. You're punishing them for something they didn't do." I looked at her steadily. The children were excited because they knew they'd get something nice. Kaylee was excited too until she opened her basket and saw what you thought she deserved. Where was the concern for her feelings then? Justin crossed his arms. "She's 7. She'll get over it." Kids bounce back. I felt something tighten in my chest, but I kept my voice level. "She's 7. And she just learned that in this family some kids get celebrated while others get dismissed. That's not something she'll just get over. Not when it comes from the people who are supposed to love her most." I adjusted the tote on my shoulder. "I've spent years making sure your children never felt that way. I paid for their activities, their school supplies, their clothes when things were tight. I did it because I believed family takes care of family. But today, I watched you all decide that my daughter didn't deserve the same consideration." Patricia's face hardened. "You're twisting everything. We love Kaylee. We just thought—" "You thought a broken doll was fine for her." I finished, while using my money to buy the best for everyone else. "That's not love. That's convenience." I took another step toward the car. Justin moved to block the path, not aggressively, but enough to make it clear he wasn't ready to let this end. "You're making a scene," he said. "Everyone's watching. Think about how this looks." I looked past him at the table, the half-eaten plates, the wilting flowers, the children who had gone quiet, sensing the shift in the air. "How it looks," I repeated. "It looks like someone finally said no. And honestly, it feels long overdue." I didn't wait for a response. I walked around him, tote in hand, and headed toward the driveway. Behind me, I heard Patricia mutter something about ungratefulness. Justin cursed under his breath, but I didn't turn back. The sun was still bright, the sky clear, but the warmth of the day felt distant now. I reached my car, opened the trunk, and placed the tote inside carefully. Then I closed it, got behind the wheel, and started the engine. As I pulled out of the driveway, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The table was still there, the family still frozen in place, watching me leave. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel angry anymore either. What I felt was something quieter, something final. Relief. Because for the first time in years, I had chosen my daughter's dignity over everyone else's comfort. And I wasn't going back. The moment the last word left my mouth, the air on the patio thickened. No one spoke. The only sound was the faint rustle of leaves in the trees lining the yard. I didn't wait for permission. I turned, walked to the far corner where the large canvas tote sat untouched since I arrived. Inside were the gifts I had chosen, with intention, each one wrapped in soft pastel paper, tied with thin ribbon, labeled with small cards I had written by hand late at night after work. I lifted the tote and carried it back to the center of the table, setting it down with a soft thud that seemed louder than it should have been. Without looking at anyone, I began unpacking the packages one by one, laying them out in front of the empty chairs. First came the books for the older nephews, 2 hardcovers from the fantasy series they had talked about nonstop during our last family call. Then the reading lights with adjustable brightness, the kind they could use without keeping the whole house awake. Next, the small sketch pads and colored pencils for the younger ones, because I remembered how much they loved drawing during holidays. I placed the stainless steel cookware set for Patricia, 5 pieces heavy bottom, the exact brand she had shown me on her phone months earlier, saying she wished she could afford them. Beside it went the leather toolkit for Dennis, complete with the metric wrenches he always complained his old set lacked, plus a magnetic strip for organization. Finally, the premium wallet for Justin, dark brown, monogrammed with his initials, slim enough to fit in his back pocket, but sturdy enough to last. I had even included a gift card inside for his favorite coffee shop, something small, but personal. Every item had been thought out. Every choice had been made with care. I gathered them all again methodically and placed them back into the tote. The paper crinkled softly with each movement. When the last piece was inside, I zipped the bag closed and slung it over my shoulder. Justin's voice cut through the quiet first. "You can't just take everything. Those are for us." I turned to face him. "They were? Now they're coming home with me." Patricia stood up halfway, her chair scraping back. "Chelsea, stop this. You're ruining the day for the kids. They've been waiting to see what Aunt Chelsea brought." "The kids," I said, keeping my tone even, "already got plenty this morning. My daughter got something different. And you all watched it happen without a word." Justin laughed once, short and bitter. "You're really going to do this over one toy? Come on, it's Easter." "Lighten up. It's not one toy," I said. "It's the message behind it. You decided Kaylee didn't deserve better. You decided she could be the one who gets less while everyone else gets more. And you did it using support that came from me." Patricia's hands fluttered. "We didn't mean it like that. It was just a little basket. She'll forget by tomorrow." "She won't forget," I said. "She'll remember the day her own family made her feel like she wasn't worth the effort. She'll remember the laughter. She'll remember the silence when she looked to you for help and got nothing." Dennis cleared his throat. "Let's not make this bigger than it needs to be. Put the bag down. We can sort it out later." "There's nothing left to sort," I replied. "I've sorted it already." I turned and started walking toward the driveway where my car was parked. The tote felt heavier than it should have, but I carried it steadily. Justin moved quickly, stepping in front of me. "You're not leaving with that. Those are ours." I stopped, looking him straight in the eye. "They were never yours. They were mine. I bought them. I wrapped them. I chose them. And now I'm choosing something else." Patricia hurried after him. "Think about the children, Chelsea. They'll be so disappointed. You're punishing them for something they didn't do." I glanced over at the table. The 5 kids were watching now, eyes wide, quiet for the first time all morning. Kaylee had moved closer to me, her small hand slipping into mine. "I'm not punishing them," I said. "I'm protecting my own. And I'm done pretending that protecting her means pretending everything is fine." Justin's face darkened. "You're being selfish. You always have to make it about you." I almost smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Selfish. For wanting my daughter to be treated with the same respect you demand for your own children. That's not selfish. That's basic decency." I stepped around him. He didn't try to block me again. I reached the car, opened the trunk, and placed the tote inside, carefully making sure nothing shifted. Then I closed it, got behind the wheel, and started the engine. Through the windshield, I saw them still standing there. Justin with his arms crossed, Patricia with her hands on her hips, Dennis sitting back down as if nothing had happened. The children were clustered near the table, looking uncertain. I backed out of the driveway slowly. No one waved. No one called after me. As the house grew smaller in the rearview mirror, I felt the knot in my chest loosen just a little. Not because I had won anything, but because, for the first time in a long time, I had chosen what was right for my child instead of what was easy for everyone else. And that choice had a weight all its own. The drive home felt longer than usual. The sun was dipping low, casting long shadows across the quiet suburban streets. Kaylee sat in the back seat, her small hands wrapped tightly around the broken doll. She hadn't said a word since we left. Every few minutes I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw her staring out the window, the toy pressed against her chest like a shield. When we pulled into the driveway of our small house, the porch light was already on. I turned off the engine and sat there for a moment, keys still in my hand. The quiet was different here, clean without the weight of expectation. I unbuckled my seatbelt. "Come on, sweetheart. Let's go inside." Kaylee nodded without looking at me and followed me up the steps. Once we were in the living room, she curled up on the couch with the doll in her lap. I turned on a lamp, then went to the kitchen to get her a glass of water. When I came back, she was still in the same position, eyes fixed on the toy. I sat beside her for a while, not speaking. Then I reached for my phone on the coffee table. The banking app loaded quickly. I tapped into the account I shared with Justin, the auxiliary card I had added his name to years ago for emergencies. It was supposed to be used only if someone needed immediate help, a hospital bill, a broken down car, something serious. Never for everyday spending. That was the agreement. The transaction list appeared. I scrolled slowly. The first charge was from an electronics store, $799 for a tablet, then $249 for wireless headphones. A jewelry site showed $412 for a set of children's bracelets, another $350 from a toy retailer, a clothing store at $520. The list went on. Over $3,000 in 1 week. Every single purchase matched the gifts his children had opened that morning. Not one notification, not one message asking if it was okay. Not one call to check the balance or explain. My thumb hovered over the screen. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Not anger exactly, but a kind of clarity. I tapped the card details. The option to freeze the card appeared. I selected it. The screen refreshed, and the card status changed to inactive. Then I called the bank. The automated system routed me to a representative after a short wait. I explained the situation calmly, unauthorized use beyond the agreed purpose charges that exceeded any emergency need. The woman on the line was professional, asked for verification details, then noted everything in the system. "We can flag these transactions for review," she said. "Since it's an auxiliary card under your primary account, you have full authority to restrict access. The charges will be held pending investigation, but the card is locked now." I thanked her and ended the call. I opened the Notes app on my phone and typed a quick internal record: date Easter Sunday. Reviewed auxiliary card activity. Discovered charges totaling over $3,000 used for non-emergency purchases, electronics, jewelry, toys without prior approval or notification. Card frozen immediately. Called bank to confirm restriction and request review for potential misuse. Agreement was for emergencies only. No further access permitted. I saved the note and attached screenshots of the transactions. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator. Kaylee had shifted slightly, resting her head on the arm of the couch. The broken doll lay beside her, one plastic eye staring up at the ceiling. I set the phone down and looked at her. She hadn't moved much, but she wasn't crying. She was just still. I walked over and sat on the floor in front of her. "You okay, baby?" She nodded once, small. "It's okay, Mom. The doll is still cute." I reached out and brushed a strand of hair from her face. "We'll get you a new one. A really good one. But for now, you're right, it's still cute because you're holding it." She gave a tiny smile, then went back to staring at the doll. I stayed there on the floor for a while, watching her breathe evenly. The anger I expected didn't come. Instead, there was something steadier. Resolve. I had given them access because I trusted them to respect boundaries. They hadn't. Now those boundaries were gone permanently. I stood up, turned off the lamp, and guided Kaylee to her room. She changed into pajamas without complaint, climbed into bed, and pulled the covers up. I kissed her forehead. "Sleep well," I whispered. She closed her eyes. "Night, Mom." I left the door cracked and went back to the living room. The phone was still on the table screen, dark. I picked it up one last time and opened the banking app again. The card was still frozen. The charges were still listed. I locked the app, set the phone to silent, and placed it face down. For the first time in years, I felt the balance shift. Not toward revenge, toward freedom. The doorbell rang at 8. I was in the kitchen rinsing Kaylee's glass when the sound cut through the quiet house. Sharp, insistent. 2 rings, then a pause, then 3 more. I dried my hands and walked to the front door, already knowing who it would be. Through the peephole, I saw them both, Justin and Patricia, standing on the porch. They were still in the same clothes from brunch. Justin's button-down slightly wrinkled, Patricia's light cardigan buttoned wrong. Their faces were tight-lit by the porch light. I opened the door but didn't step aside. Justin spoke first, voice low but urgent. "We need to talk. Now." Patricia stood behind him, arms crossed, eyes fixed on me. I kept my hand on the doorframe. "Kaylee's asleep. Keep it down." They followed me into the living room. I didn't offer seats. They stood anyway. Justin started pacing a small circle near the couch. "The card is frozen. The stores are calling. They're saying the purchases are on hold. If we don't fix this tonight, they're going to reverse everything. The kids will lose their gifts." Patricia added quickly, her tone clipped. "They already opened them. Some posted pictures online. If the stores take them back, everyone will see. The whole family will know what happened." I leaned against the wall, arms folded. "You used the card without asking. For non-emergencies. That's why it's locked." Justin stopped pacing and faced me. "It was for the kids. For Easter. We didn't think you'd mind. You've always helped before." "Helped," I repeated. "That's what you call it." Patricia stepped closer, her voice dropping to that cold, measured tone she used when she wanted to sound reasonable. "You're abandoning your brother, your nieces and nephews. What kind of person does that? What will people think when they hear you cut them off over a misunderstanding?" Justin nodded. "The family will talk. Cousins, aunts, everyone. They'll say you turned your back on us. On the kids. How are we supposed to explain that I looked from one to the other? You're worried about what people will think? Not about what you did." Justin's jaw tightened. "We did what we had to for our children. You wouldn't understand. You only have one." The words landed like a slap, but I didn't flinch. "I have one. And I'm making sure she knows she's worth more than a second-hand toy while everyone else gets new things paid for with my money." Patricia shook her head slowly. "You're being dramatic. The card was there for family. You gave it to us. Now you're punishing us for using it." "I gave it for emergencies," I said. "Not for shopping sprees. There's a difference." Justin rubbed the back of his neck. "Look, just call the bank. Tell them it was a mistake. Unlock it. We'll pay you back later." "We always do." "You don't always do," I said quietly. "You take. Then you expect more." Patricia's eyes narrowed. "After everything we've been through together. After all the years. You're going to throw it away because of one day," I echoed. "The day you watched my daughter open something broken and laughed. The day you used my support to make sure your children had everything and mine had nothing. That's not one day. That's a pattern." Justin took a step forward. "If you don't fix this, the kids lose their Easter. They'll remember it was you who took it away." I met his gaze. "They'll remember their parents made choices that had consequences." Silence stretched between us. Patricia broke it first, her voice icy. "You're choosing to leave us in the dark. To let your nieces and nephews suffer. Think about your mother's reputation. What will the neighbors say? The church group? Everyone will know you abandoned your own blood." I pushed off the wall. "My mother's reputation isn't my responsibility. Neither is yours. Neither is the church group's opinion. My responsibility is right down the hall, sleeping in her bed, trusting that the people who are supposed to love her won't make her feel small." Justin's shoulders sagged slightly. "Just unlock the card. One call. That's all we're asking." I shook my head once. "No." Patricia's face hardened. "Then you're done with us. Completely done." I looked at her steadily. "I'm done with the one-sided help. I'm done pretending it's normal. I'm done paying for your comfort while you disrespect mine." Justin's voice cracked. "So that's it. No more rent help. No more tuition. No more sports fees." "That's it," I said. "No more tuition. No more rent. No more sports fees. No more anything. From now on, you handle your own family. I'll handle mine. Patricia stared at me like she didn't recognize me. You'll regret this. I didn't answer. Justin turned toward the door, shoulders slumped. You're really doing this? I already did, I said. They walked out. Justin didn't look back. Patricia paused at the threshold, opened her mouth as if to say something else, then closed it. The door shut behind them with a soft click. I stood in the entryway for a long moment, listening to their footsteps fade down the driveway to the car, starting to the engine pulling away. The house was quiet again. I locked the front door, turned off the porch light, and walked back to the living room. Kaylee's bedroom door was still cracked. I peeked in. She was asleep, one arm draped over the broken doll. I closed the door gently. Then I went to the couch, sat down, and let out a long breath. For years I had carried the weight of everyone else's needs. Tonight I set it down. And the world didn't end. It just got a little lighter. 3 weeks passed in silence. No calls, no texts, no emails. The group chat I had muted long ago stayed empty. My phone felt lighter without the constant notifications. I kept my routine simple: work during the day, evenings with Kaylee, homework, dinner, a book before bed. She asked about the family once, just once, on the second Sunday. Are Grandma and Uncle coming over anymore? I told her the truth gently. Not for a while, baby, but we're okay. She nodded and went back to her drawing. That was it. The first real sign came through a mutual friend who still talked to Justin's wife. Word got around quietly. Justin had picked up night shifts at the warehouse 3 extra nights a week, midnight to 8. He was exhausted, she said. Bags under his eyes. Barely home when the kids were awake. The overtime helped cover the rent, but it was tight. The landlord had already sent a late notice. Then the kids' activities stopped. The oldest 2, who had been in basketball league, were pulled out. The fees were $280 a month for both, plus uniforms and travel. The younger girl in dance class, $340 a month, dropped too. The twins' soccer registration was canceled before it started. $200 each. All of it gone in 1 month because there was no buffer anymore. I heard it secondhand. No one reached out directly. No apologies. Just the slow unraveling. One Tuesday evening, I opened my email to find a message from Patricia. Subject line blank. The body was long, 2 full screens, single-spaced. I read it standing in the kitchen, coffee cooling on the counter. See, Halsey. I have tried to give you space, but I can't stay silent anymore. What you did has hurt this family in ways you don't seem to understand. You froze. The card stopped all help. And walked away, like we were nothing to you. Do you know what that means for the grandchildren? They lost their Easter gifts. They lost their classes. They lost stability. Justin is killing himself with extra shifts, just to keep the roof over their heads. Your nieces and nephews are asking why Aunt Chelsea doesn't come anymore, why there's no more help for school or sports. They're too young to understand, but they feel it. You say it's about respect. But respect goes both ways. You've always had the money, the stability, the nice house. You never had to struggle the way we have. We thought you would help because that's what family does. Instead, you chose to punish us all over one misunderstanding. One basket. One doll. You're destroying their future for a moment of pride. I am ashamed. Ashamed of how you've treated your own brother. Ashamed that my daughter would turn her back on her mother and the children who love her. The neighbors ask questions. The church group whispers. Everyone sees what you've done. You've made us look like we're the bad ones when all we did was try to make Easter special for the kids. Think about what this is doing to Kaylee too. She's growing up without cousins, without grandparents, without the family she deserves. You're robbing her of that. All because you couldn't let something small go. I raised you better. I thought you were stronger than this. But maybe I was wrong. Mom, I read it twice. The words were sharp, but they didn't cut the way they used to. They just sat there heavy and familiar. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my documents folder, created a new subfolder called Evidence, and saved the email there. I took screenshots of the full message, the timestamp, the sender address. Then I forwarded it to my personal backup email. After that, I went to my contacts. I blocked Patricia's email address, then Justin's, then the shared family one they sometimes used. One by one until the list was empty. The inbox felt cleaner. I closed the laptop and walked to Kaylee's room. She was already asleep, the new doll, the one I bought her the weekend after Easter, tucked under her arm. The broken one sat on the shelf now, a quiet reminder. I turned off her light and closed the door. Back in the living room, I sat on the couch with the lights low. The house was still. Outside, a car passed slowly down the street. Someone's porch light flickered on. I thought about the 3 weeks, the quiet dinners, the evenings without the usual family drama, the space where guilt used to live. It wasn't perfect. There were moments when I wondered if I'd gone too far. Moments when Kaylee looked at family photos on the fridge and didn't ask questions. Moments when I missed the good parts, the holidays before the tension, the small laughs. But those moments passed. Because every time I looked at my daughter, I saw her smile again. I saw her laugh without hesitation. I saw her open gifts without bracing for disappointment. And that was worth more than any rent check or tuition payment. I had stopped paying for their comfort. Now I was paying for ours. And for the first time in years, the balance felt right. The following Easter arrived quietly. No big family plans, no crowded table, just the two of us. I woke early and started in the kitchen. I roasted a small ham, glazed it with honey and mustard the way Kaylee likes. I chopped fresh fruit for a simple salad, strawberries, blueberries, a little mint from the pot on the windowsill. I baked rolls from scratch, the kind that fill the house with warm yeast smell. On the table, I placed a small vase of spring flowers I'd picked from the yard, daffodils and tulips, bright yellow and pink. Kaylee came downstairs in her pajamas, hair messy from sleep. She rubbed her eyes and smiled when she saw the table. "It's Easter already." "It is," I said. "And it's ours." We ate slowly. She told me about the dream she had, something about a rabbit hiding eggs in the clouds. I listened and laughed at the right parts. No rush, no expectations. After breakfast, we moved to the backyard. I had hidden a dozen plastic eggs the night before, some filled with candy, some with small notes, one with a tiny keychain she'd wanted. I gave her a basket lined with green grass paper. "Ready?" I asked. She nodded, eyes bright. "Go." She ran across the grass, laughing as she found each one. I followed, pretending to help, but letting her discover them all. When the last egg was in the basket, she sat on the patio steps and opened them one by one. The candy went straight into her mouth. The notes made her giggle. The keychain she clipped to her backpack immediately. Then I handed her the real gift, the one I'd wrapped separately. She tore the paper carefully. Inside was the new doll, soft hair, bright eyes, full arms and legs, a dress with tiny flowers. It looked nothing like the old one. It looked like something made for her. Her face lit up. "Mom, she's beautiful. She's yours," I said. No missing parts. No old paint. Just new. She hugged the doll tight, then hugged me. "This is the best Easter ever." "Why?" I asked softly. She looked up, serious for a moment. "Because no one made me sad. It's just us, and we're happy." I pulled her close. That's all I wanted. We spent the rest of the day outside. She played with the doll on the grass. I sat on the steps with a cup of coffee watching her. The sun was warm. The neighborhood was quiet. Birds moved through the trees. In the afternoon, we went for a walk around the block. She held my hand, the new doll tucked under her arm. Neighbors waved. We waved back. No one asked questions. No one needed to. When we got home, she arranged her eggs on the windowsill like a little display. The broken doll from last year stayed on her shelf untouched, but not thrown away. It was just there, a quiet part of the past. That night after she was in bed, I sat in the living room with the lights low. The house felt full in a way it never had before. Not crowded, just enough. I thought about the year that had passed, the silence after that Easter brunch, the consequences that followed, the space that opened up when I stopped carrying everyone else's weight. I didn't miss the old routine. I didn't miss the guilt. I didn't miss the one-sided giving. What I had now was peace, real peace. Family isn't about blood alone. It's about respect. It's about love without conditions. It's about making sure the people you care about most feel valued, not just tolerated. When someone uses your kindness to hurt the one person who matters more than anything, the answer isn't to keep giving. The answer is to stop. Setting boundaries isn't cruel. It's protection. It's choosing your child's worth over everyone else's comfort. And I will never regret making that choice. Kaylee is growing up knowing she is enough. She is loved. She is seen. That is the only legacy that matters. I turned off the lamp and went to bed. The next morning she woke up smiling,